Welcome to a special edition of Midnight Movie Theater. I'm lucky enough to be joined by Guilford Adams, the writer and director of the up and coming documentary American Clown. Thanks for joining me, Guilford. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Adrian. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So could you explain what is American Clown about exactly?
Well, I guess I'll give you kind of. I've been on this project for about 8 years. It sounds like a horror movie or like a political satire or something or a state of America, but and it could be all those things actually.
Mhm.
But what it is basically is it's a documentary about a working clown in the Los Angeles area. It kind of follows me, but it also kind of incorporates a lot of kind of these tropes that we deal with, and one of them is the horror clown, and kind of in how that is how that's playing into our profession, and how it's kind of the elephant in the room that's not going to go away anytime soon. And so
Yeah.
part of it is just is embracing that as a performer and kind of recognizing that and moving on. Um, a big part of it, and I'm not anti-horror clown at all.
Mhm.
I realize that it's got it's its own sort of it's the ambassador. Whether I want to uh, believe it or not, or I'm cool with it, it's the ambassador of the American clown right now. It's what's hitting. It's what it is. It's the Pennywise. It's the art, the Terrifier. It's
Yes.
the clown in the cornfield. I think is going to be coming out soon.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
like the most recent one, I think, at least that I've seen, is that. And I actually listened to the book not too long ago to get a feel for it. I like to try to compare and contrast, like, is it which one's better? I mean, the books are usually better, but then you have like the rare occasion with the movie like The Shining or something like that where it's debatable. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm curious because it seems very like teenage horror type of movie, very like scary clown shit, very typical scary clown shit where it's like going to be chopping kids up, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what it is, right? I mean, that's
I
going to
think
be
so.
that's kind of the direction of it. Like Jason meets, it's a like take it less from the surreal it to kind of more of like, oh, we're just your standard hacker film. We just want
Yeah.
to chop boobs off and stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
have
Uh,
some weird prosthetics.
all
Um,
sorts of blood squirts and shit like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm largely not, I'm not against it. And then that's what society wants. And America is a very cinematic sort of, we're a cinematic country, that
Yeah.
we, I think that the trope eventually will get overused and it'll be like, oh, we don't want to see another scary clown thing. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay at the table, so to
I
speak.
I agree. And I honestly I think that happened like what in the early 2000s. I feel like any clown movie that came out was kind of like poo-pooed, whereas like, oh, that's some cheap horror. We've already seen like Pennywise and all the Are You Afraid of the Dark clowns that we had growing up and stuff like that. And I think it kind of like went away for a bit. And honestly, like with the first Terrifier, I think that like was still in that phase, but then people like went back and kept checking it out and were like, oh, this is actually pretty. I mean, it's great for what it is. It's like a $60,000 movie that has like incredible special effects and whatnot. So I think that kind of like revamped it. And now you're seeing more and more of it. And probably also the It remakes. I feel like those definitely like jump started that fad again or whatever you want to call it. You know what I
Yeah, and they're
mean?
doing that. So okay, going back to kind of your previous question, when I was working as a corporate clown,
Mm-hmm.
they still had those back then in 2017 when it was coming out again. And what happened was like, they shuttered the program at the same time, and it wasn't necessarily because of that, but that's the backdrop. And then
Yeah.
there was all these sort of scary clown sightings. I don't know if you remember them, but they were
Yes.
happening in England and South Carolina. It almost seemed like promo for it.
Yeah.
Uh, it was like, okay, well, this is a clever guerrilla. You got the, and then in California here, there was a big sort of like I don't remember what it was or if it was a slow news day or whatever, but they were like, scary clowns are coming to Southern California. And I remember thinking, like, oh God,
Like this
if
is
I
gonna
was a
fuck up.
16-year-old kid and I heard that on the news, I would just go buy a latex mask and,
Yeah.
and do it,
And start
So
recording it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
start recording it, and
Yeah.
and I just thought like, oh. So at that time, it was I had a person that was like, oh, we should record your life, and it wasn't interesting. I mean, maybe it is, but I was like, eh. But then all these things were ending, and this program has so like, let's just shoot it. Let's shoot all
Mhm.
this stuff as it's happening, and so that was kind of the beginning that we started
Okay.
getting all this footage of me in makeup and me doing performances and stuff because this Field Ronald program was closing. The Field Ronald McDonald program was closing,
Mm-hmm.
the circus was closing, and it just felt like a real thing. And then the pandemic hit, as you all know, as
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
know.
Oh
And so
yeah.
everything kind of shut down. And then as
Yeah.
we started kind of scraping our way out of it, I kind of like turned the cameras back on and was like, what's going on with people in the profession and how is this affecting us? And and I would be lying to say it kind of came at an interesting time.
Hmm.
It was politically, and there was just something really bubbling on the surface, and it was a real shift from like what's news and what's entertainment. All these news
Yes.
companies are being bought by entertainment, these Viacoms, and so it's hard to delineate what's real or not, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
And for me, I have a clown company called Los Angeles Clown Company,
Okay.
and I would get calls all the time saying from the same people that were pushing all this fear mongering out there, saying
Yeah.
scary clowns are coming to Southern California. And they
Yeah.
would call me like, "Hey, can you come and talk to our news station about how this is affecting your jobs?" And it's like,
Fuck.
hey, I mean, first of all, I don't want to. You're just
Yeah.
the one pushing this story.
Right.
And then secondly, it's like I don't want to feed into this, man. This is a non-story that you're
Yeah.
creating, you're hyping it up for clicks or whatever it is. And
Yes.
so it was just a confusing time, and it still is. And what we're seeing, I've often thought that clowns are a little bit of the canary in the coal mine. What we're seeing just professionally, and a lot of it is from full-time employment to part-time work, from all this sort of like major, this could be a career to like this is your side hustle. So a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff was kind of happening in real time. So that's kind of where the doc kind of takes us, and it doesn't
Okay.
necessarily, and for a lot of people that don't know about clowns,
Hmm.
they're like, it tells you like this is the life of a clown. And so I've got a lot of working class clowns in it. I have a lot of sort of major names like Steve-O, who went to clown
Yeah.
college in 97, and John C. Reilly, and
Yeah.
David Arquette, who bought the rights to Bozo, and Bill Irwin, who, like, for any clown my age, my generation, Generation X, was like the North Star for like
Yeah.
a clown. Like that's the dude you want to be. And he's also a Tony Award winning actor, and so that
Oh
was
yeah.
basically where it started, and that's what we've just kind of wrapped. And yeah,
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 that's really amazing. Yeah, I mean, that was like one of the first things I noticed when I started doing some research on it was yeah, like David Howard Thornton, John C. Riley, David Arquette, Steve. I
yeah.
was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like I'm really excited to see it. Do you have a release date in mind, or like you said, you've been working on it
We
for
have We're doing the film festival circuit, so we do
yeah.
have, if you live in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, we're premiering June 23rd at Dances with Films,
Okay.
which is kind of right there, Hollywood Highland, right in the middle of where everybody dresses up like Spider-Man and
Oh,
Batman and
nice.
whatever else. And
Yeah.
so it'll be good. I'm looking for it. It's Monday night. It's a 7 o'clock. It's that's historically a dark night for theater people. So
Okay.
I'm excited by that. Anybody doing theater out here, they could come and check it out.
Yeah, that sounds great. That would be so cool. I'm excited to check it out whenever I am, whenever will it be streaming eventually, I'm guessing, and stuff
The
like
hope
that?
is, right, as an independent, and I'm a
Mhm.
first-time director.
Mhm.
I've done other plays and stuff. It's my first time directing a movie,
Yes.
and co-directing really. Casey Pinkston's the other director, and
Yeah.
I that's the hope, right? That because it's self-financed, and I didn't do like a GoFundMe. I just kind of financed it on my own with slinging balloons, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Oh
I
wow.
still work as a clown,
That's
and
impressive.
so that's the hope is that we'll get it streaming somewhere, or we can find someone that's passionate about it,
Hmm.
and yeah. So that's we just don't know. We don't know what the market will bear. Like I had some close. We submitted to South. I did plenty of submissions, and
Hmm.
I got lots of rejections. I think for any filmmakers out there, I just want to give a tip of that hat to you, because what they tell you is like, hey man, if you want to make a film, like just do it and don't let anyone say no. And all that is true.
Yeah.
All that is true. Do it on the weekends, whatever. What they don't tell you is that when you do make it, it's like a whole nother journey to even
Yeah.
get somebody to watch it or
Yeah.
to put it in their festival, or it's like tough, man.
Yeah.
And there's so many factors out of your control. And as I work as an actor too, and as an actor, I'm kind of used to getting kicked in the balls. But then, getting your film rejected is like it's a new
Y-
gut punch.
I
Like
can imagine. Yeah. I
the
mean,
only way I
that's
can compare it is like, so let's say that and you're a father, right, Adrian?
yes.
Like it sucks when something happens to you, but
Yeah.
then when it happens to your kid, you're
Oh,
like, oh
dude,
no,
that's the worst. Yeah.
this will not
It's
stand.
like I need to call the doctors. I need to call somebody and figure out what the hell's going on.
What's
Yeah.
going on? What's going on with this kid? And
But
it
yeah, if
kind
it's
of,
me, it's
yeah,
like I haven't been to the doctor in 10 years and I'm, just hoping everything's all right.
right. If this thing hurts tomorrow, I'm definitely going to the doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
But a kid, you're like, let's go right away. Call
Yeah.
the ambulance. I don't care.
Emergency room right now. I don't know. That yeah, man, that's super interesting. So what got you into directing? So like I was looking through, I mean your IMDb is nuts. You've got like 60 or more like submissions as an actor, and then I noticed that like there's the transition into directing. What was it, just the passion project of wanting to do American Clown?
Yeah, I've always been a director, had a director mind. I'm like in even in scouts, I'm kind of a reluctant leader. Like if
Mhm.
somebody else says I want to lead, like I don't want to jostle for that sort
Yeah.
of thing. I'm that way as an actor too. I don't
Mhm.
need to like, and as a clown, I'm kind of like a clock in, clock out clown. I kind of
Yeah.
do my time served and I kind of get on out. I don't stay extra
Mhm.
after, and like I just having a great time at this party, man. I don't want to leave. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of like I'm ready to go once I get paid. So that being said, I've directed plays and stuff and over the years, and you know when this story came about, it was like, well, I know the questions. I
Mhm.
know what to ask other actors, and I'm doing it. So like, let's just kind of follow me and stuff. I was always, and I still am,
Yeah.
slightly uncomfortable even kind of being like a focus of the film because I want it to be,
Mhm.
about other people. But it was really just kind of like I was forced to be in it,
Mhm.
just because there was no one else, right?
Yeah.
That had the time, that had the energy, that had the passion for it, that I, I was really willing to work with,
Yeah.
it's just because a lot of other people's the closest clowns that I know Laffy Pants, and I've got some guys out here, but they're kind of hustling other jobs and trying to
Mhm.
do other things. It's not always within their sort of chosen profession, because it's not like a full-time job like it was for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, even to this day, if somebody was like, "Hey, I'm blah blah blah," or "I'm Eric Stone Street," or I'm some major name that can move this movie further, but it's
Mhm.
going to take me as director, it's like, awesome, you have it. You
Yeah.
know, I just
Okay.
no one's had that conversation with me yet.
Oh,
No
I
one's
gotcha. Yeah,
no one's
I noticed that there was another director attached to it, and I was kind of wondering like how that process
Yeah,
goes.
so Scott Barber was attached to this originally,
Yeah.
and I think he's a father just like we are with two
Yeah.
kids. He's homeschooling, and I think it was just too much to kind of really do it. It was a little bit. He's in Conroe, Texas, which is outside of Houston, which is
Mhm.
my old stomping ground. So I was just like, and then Casey putting all this 8 years of footage together. Who's the editor? He's
Mhm.
also been a director before, and this is my first time as a director, and I was just like, oh my God, you've created this movie. Like, I mean, I've written it and it's like, but it just really, he made a cohesive thing out of it, and I just thought like he's my co-director, and oh, did I lose you, Adrian?
No, I'm still here. One second.
That's okay.
I can hear you. I think
Okay, it's fine.
my camera
I
just
so I
went
just
out.
I bumped Casey up as the editor, because I thought like he just really had a vision, and he just kind of got it, and that was kind of, and I don't like being the sole director on this, not on this. I mean maybe something else, but for this thing it just seems if I could take my name off entirely, I would almost do that. But like I said, it's not worth just giving it to somebody if I'm going to work harder at it. It's
Right.
just
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's I mean, the a perfect answer for that. Like it's your thing, it's your passion. You know what's going on in the business. And speaking of the business, I was wondering like how long have you been a clown and what got you started in that? Like, is that precede acting?
yeah, I think they kind of go hand in hand in kind of
Mhm.
an interesting dovetail way. I did do a lot of clowning when I was a kid. Like I grew up in the South in Houston, and so
Okay.
they have something at my church. I think growing up, I learned magic and I learned how to do balloon animals and all that stuff. And I did like a gig, I think, for
Yeah.
like an old folks home that my mom had kind of pimped me out for.
Oh, that's cool.
And I made my own clown shoes. I remember it vividly,
Wow.
And then I got into sports and girls and that sort of
All
stuff
right.
that you do in high school. And then in college, I was a springboard diver and I was a walk-on to the
Oh,
University of
wow.
Tennessee springboard diving team. And I was with this group of swimmers, and they were lovely dudes, but they were just they were different. Like it
Yeah.
just didn't feel kind of like, I'm still friends with some, but it just
Mhm.
didn't feel like my tribe.
Yeah.
So I did like a play with Diablo Mundo, this Argentinian acting troupe, and they took over this restaurant and were singing and chanting and doing everything. And I remember thinking like the English is a second language to these guys, and
Yeah.
like this feels more like my tribe
That,
than all these other white dudes or
right,
whatever,
right. Sports and yeah, yeah.
all these other sports guys,
Yeah, yeah.
and no diss to them. It's just I just
Right.
it was very jocular, and I just wasn't that at
It's
that time,
yeah, it's totally different environment in a way. I mean, like yeah, I kind of know what you mean. I can get along with both. I find myself to be more of a like fall in line with some more creatives where your work is more expressive, I guess, or something like
Yeah, and
that.
I think, and as a diver, you're very expressive in what you're doing, and then so like, and they're swimmers, and it's just hard, and they're swimming, and they're strong, and it just, I didn't really see that delineation in high school, because I didn't have that much, and then in college, and then the age you're like, oh, I feel different than that, like.
Yeah.
And I took an acting class anyway, so I took an acting class, but I was a very physical person going into acting. I didn't do musicals in high school and all this stuff, so
Mhm.
to me, it was, you always present your best side for a lot of these things. So I got into Shakespeare and these sort of servant roles where you could flip and twist and do pratfalls and,
That's
these
cool.
Perinos and people could like grab you, the Arlecchinos. And I loved it. I loved it. So in college, I really started studying all the sort of the masters, like the silent film stuff, Buster Keaton, all that sort of stuff. Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, the Marx Brothers. That stuff just lit me up.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to California, one of the things in LA in 2000, so kind of that just to put a marker there.
Yeah.
Um, I was acting, I was trying to get into stuff, and then there's like, oh, but you need to have auditions. They have to happen during the week. Now things are self-taped for anyone that's listening out there, but
Yeah.
back then you would go to auditions all the time, and you'd
Okay.
have to go. So they, it's like you couldn't have a job, or if you tried to have a job, but then you had to leave 4 times in a day, they'd be like, dude, this is not working. Are you addicted to drugs or what? They know addicted to acting. Sorry. So they ask you, like, hey, this is not working out for us. So one of the things I did is I did party stuff on the weekends, which
Okay.
kept my weeks free. And I did all these major characters like Elmo and
Okay.
and I didn't like doing that. I didn't
Yeah.
like being in a big head, like a space. It's like deep sea diving, and the kids are
Yeah.
in the balls and stuff, and it just wasn't good. And I was like, but I like the clowns. I like being a clown, and I'm physical, and I want to do this stuff. So I created my own company at the time called Clowns for Hire, which would be renamed
Mhm.
Los Angeles Clown probably in 2003 or
Yeah.
something, 2003.
Okay.
And that was kind of the beginning of, I had all this sort of background and I had a degree in acting, but that was the beginning of kind of a more intensive sort of training. And I had auditioned for Reilly Brothers in 97
Oh
uh,
yeah.
for the clown school in Sarasota. I didn't do the paperwork, and that was probably a big mistake at the time. And But I didn't get into that class. I know a
Mhm.
lot of people that did get into that class, and then the next year it was they didn't have it anymore. So that was the
Oh,
last year I could have, and I kind of missed that boat. And
Oh.
I've got some regrets about that, but I
Mhm.
also find that I'm on the same trail as if I
Yeah.
had gone to it. Like
Right.
I kind of meandered off of it and got back on the trail.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a blessing or I don't know if that was good or bad,
Yeah.
but I'm back on
Yeah.
the trail that I would have been on.
Yeah, yeah, I can see how that's kind of hard to say, but either way, I mean, you seem to be doing really well. I noticed that like you're in Modern Family, and Glee, and a lot of big shows like that. I think I saw. I was just going through everything last night, and iCarly, a lot of shows that I recognize, the Eric Andre show and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
like my first hint where I was like, I noticed that a lot of your roles were as a clown. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that you're able to bring that to acting as well. Like,
Yeah, I think, I think part of it is that, right? There's a lot of clowns that I have a feeling that for a lot of people, when you're in costume, there's you don't have to work as hard.
mhm.
Like I think sometimes that's kind of my clown. I like to say my clown is a little bit dressed like Superman, but
Yeah,
Superman getting a cup of coffee, and
yeah,
everyone's like, "Hey,
yeah,
Superman, we got like, I know, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. You know,
yeah,
I got to refuel real quick, guys. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
you got to build up to it.
Hmm.
So, and that's kind of like the persona of my clown. So I think being an actor kind of helps with that because you're not
Yeah.
like, I'm a clown and I'm excited and I just, you're kind of like, how to read the room a little bit and kind of
Right.
not push too hard.
Right, that makes sense. We kind of touched on this earlier about some of the actors and different clowns that are in American Clown. I was wondering specifically about David Howard Thornton, and we kind of talked about horror movies, but have you seen the Terrifier movies?
I have. I've seen the
You
first
seen
one. I
them?
haven't seen the second.
Okay,
I did interview David, and
yeah,
David's wonderful.
dude,
Just a
he seems like
sweet.
a great guy. Yeah, everything I've seen about him seems like an amazing person.
Yeah, he's just a great guy. And and it really gave me, I didn't want to like I don't want to ostracize like, oh, I can't, I think there's a temptation to be like, all horror clowns got to go. Like I'm not saying I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
I'm
it's part
saying
of it.
I just think that there's a room at the table for
Oh
everybody.
yeah, yeah, 100%. That is one thing. Like I was born in '90, the same year that the It movie came out,
Yeah,
and my mom was way into Stephen King. I grew up watching it, like it was like a go-to where it's like me and my brothers are bored, we'll just watch It and scare the shit out
yeah,
of ourselves or something like that,
yeah, yeah.
And same with Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was like our go-to thing, but I never really had a chance to like enjoy a clown because of that. And I also had this like weird relationship with clowns in my mind as like a little kid where like I was probably like 8 or 10. And if I went to like for some reason, I was like definitely scared of them. But in my mind, I was like, because they're dressed up like a clown, I could just beat the hell out of them. You know what I mean? And like that makes no sense to me now. I'm like, what was wrong with me as a kid? Like, like there's some reason where it's like this grown adult who could clearly just like throw me over a fence or something. But in my mind, I'm like, dude, I'd fuck him up. It's like,
Well, that's funny though. That's because there is some power to that, right? I mean, there's
yeah.
the idea. Let me write my dog needs some
Oh,
time.
you're fine. Go do what you got to do.
I don't know who Bozo is. What, is he a clown?
Is he a clown? What, are you kidding me?
Or what is he?
Yes, he's a clown.
All right, so what's the big deal? There's millions of clowns.
All right, just forget it.
Forget me, for you should forget it. You're living in the past, man. You hung up on some clown from the 60s, man.
All right. Very good, very good. All right, go fold your little balloon animals, Eric. Eric. What kind of name is that for a clown, huh?
Is that you say that,
Yeah.
as I'm kind of sort of like accepting that information and thinking about it, one of the things I like to do as a clown is I like to. I tend to be kind of it's always my voice. I don't talk. Yeah, guys. I
Yeah.
just it's just me. Obviously, I'll talk differently to a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old than I would like a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old would be kind of like ultra cool, okay.
Yeah.
But the persona is still the same, like, like I like your shirt. If it's just like if it's got Yoda on it, it's like
Hmm.
Star Trek's great, man, my favorite one. And he's like, what? No,
Like, what
dude,
the
it's like,
hell?
yeah, yoga. Yoga's great. I love yoga. It's like, what?
So
You know,
yeah.
it's just like, dude, this guy's an idiot. You know, so in some sense of it, I'm letting the kids know that they can one up me. Like, I keep throwing them pitches, you know,
Yeah.
and they're just like, God, this guy's an,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think maybe that somehow you still had that sort of this sort of relationship that you could still be slightly smarter than a clown, you know, and I feel or I could beat him up. I could
Yeah.
still
Yeah. It's just,
it's still to my advantage, you
yeah.
know, and
It's
I
like,
could get this clown.
yeah, you see them as like a weird sort of punching bag because I guess because you see them like goofing on themselves, like you said, like kind of dumbing themselves down to be like, you're in charge here, you're smarter than I am, even though you're a little kid, that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and I
totally
think
makes
that's
sense.
the power of a clown. I mean, there are so many situations, and this is going back to, there's not only horror clowns, right? There's
Mhm.
clowns that do birthday parties. There's clowns that do clowns across borders. One of the most sort of like right now, just a very successful scenarios is medical clowning, and
Oh,
medical clowning would involve two clowns, teams of two. The lots of groups do it. The Laughter League, Healthy Humor, which is highlighted in the film. They go to whether it's oncology or they go to an area of the hospital that they try to engage with young people. Now, young people at a hospital, if they're there for any sort of treatment, typically they have procedures. People come in and take their blood. They have no say in anything. You know, it's
yeah,
like we're here, we're trying to fix you, whatever. They try to make it as normal as possible, but you and I both know if one of our it's very unnormal to be in
scary.
there.
Yeah,
And it's scary, and then it's scary for the parents too. It's scary for everybody.
yeah.
If anything, the kids are the most resilient in that hospital.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we provide is a service going to the doors. If a kid says, "Hey, would you like a visitor? I got my friend, me, and Mr. whatever his name, Mrs. Diddley Squat there. Is it cool if, Nurse Gilly, that's me, and Dr. Diddley Squat come in?" And if they say no, totally cool.
Yeah,
Totally cool. Yeah, I wouldn't want us in there either. I want to be with her, whatever that sort of thing
yeah.
is. But it gives them permission to say no.
Yes,
And
man.
nowhere else in their life can they say no.
Right. That's such a good point. I never even thought about that. But yeah, that's really, I mean, it almost offers like a level of comfort as well, where it's
Comfort and,
like,
and so clowns really, really just by the act of they give kids permission to be right.
yeah,
To be right about something. And I think it's something that's so easily overlooked that, like, oh, it's like, so when I have a kid come to me, which often does happen, I have a kid and they say, like, aren't all clowns scary? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, Pennywise, that's my cousin. He went all Hollywood. He drives a Tesla now, Cybertruck, I think. I mean, the guy's just all over the place. So, but and he's cool, but he didn't return my calls. Like I'm
yeah.
here, I'm present, and I'm sorry you think that. A lot of us are nice. There's just some that, whatever, man. They just got a role to play or whatever.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Gotta
Um,
be scary. Gotta make that money, I guess.
yeah, exactly. That's the idea. You got it.
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah.
That's really great. I hadn't really thought of it that, I mean, maybe subconsciously, that is probably what it's always been. But yeah, I've never really like taken the time to like think about like why is that? I always just thought like it's hilarious that I thought that as a child. Like, what's wrong? But and back to the reason why I brought up David Howard Thornton
Dave,
again,
yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, like, mostly because I do like a horror show or cover a lot of
Yeah,
horror
yeah, yeah, yeah.
movies, not exclusively, but that's kind of like my go-to, I guess. I was curious, like, are you a horror fan yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I
Yeah.
love horror movies. In fact, I'm trying to write one.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I would, if I wrote a horror movie, it'd be about like there'd be a clown in it, but the
Yeah.
clown is like you think like, oh, he's the murderer, and he's the one that solves everything,
Oh, that'd be an
because everyone
amazing.
else is like so scared of him. He's like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here, guys. I
Yes.
got stuck out here in the woods too.
That's an incredible red herring, honestly, like a rug pull. Like, who done it? Everybody thinks it's the fucking clown. And then, yeah, no, that'd be
All right.
great.
Well, if I don't write it, somebody else, one of your listeners, write it.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
So David, one thing when I had the interview with him, and I was excited to talk to him. And again, it's like steering into the skid, right?
Mhm.
When it happening, you're like, oh, I should get out. Like, nah, man, we're talking about this and what, the elephant in the room for a lot of clowns in America. And like, let's
Sure.
talk to horror clowns. Let's figure out what's
Yeah.
going on. And he's absolutely a clown. Like he's wonderful.
Yes.
His stuff that he was so excited about was like, man, I love like like at the old and he had some of the same references
Mhm.
and he talks about it in the documentary. Like I'm just such a fan of physical comedy and all the silliness and the gags and that's what he is. A Terrifier's like this, art's like this, and
Yes.
they stab somebody.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what sold the movie for me. Like, I was pretty hesitant going in, and it was because I saw just like a clip on Instagram of like one of the really brutal scenes of like somebody getting cut in half, and I was like, holy fuck. I was like, I don't know about that. I'll take my time getting into that. We'll see. I was like,
It's
eventually,
gory.
yeah, it's super gory. So I was like, but then when I watched him, I was like, his performance is such he nails it. Like you said, he nails being a clown and like acting like a clown. Yeah, it makes the movie in a lot of ways. I mean, as they go on, like I feel like the second one is really well written, really great. The first one, it feels a lot like a reel of just like gore scenes mostly, and then him just
Yeah.
like putting on the act of art. But yeah, as they go on, like it made me excited to see where it's gonna go with the story. I was like really pleasantly surprised with those movies because I'll watch a movie like a Hostel or something where somebody's just like where they're just sawing people up and that's basically the movie. But at the same time, it's a lot to just sit there and be like, damn, yeah, they're sawing their head off. Like, let's go. Here's the next one. Like, bring in the next guy or whatever. So,
Yeah, I know it's
yeah,
horrible.
yeah, I was really really excited to see that you had him on there. I thought that was cool. So do you have any favorite horror movies or like I'm not saying like the
I mean, I
best or
have the
anything,
traditional
but
Friday the 13th. I
yeah.
mean, man, when I was a kid,
Mhm.
I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, and that I was in the fifth grade, so I was a little bit like that's
Okay.
not super, but it was like a slumber party.
Yeah.
I remember it, and Johnny Depp. And this was before even people knew who Johnny Depp was.
Yeah.
Got sucked into that bed. And I was like, holy, and I remember being so freaking scared. I was
Yes.
so terrified.
Oh my god,
I
dude.
couldn't sleep in my bed for like a week. And I slept on this because it was like in your dreams.
Yeah, yeah, you
It
can't
comes in
stop
your,
them.
you can't sleep, right? It's in your dreams.
Yeah.
I go to
Dude.
sleep. I can't stop the dreams.
Yeah.
It's just like this just very good, very well done
Yes. No,
movie.
those were definitely like a pivotal moment when I saw that, as opposed to like the Friday the 13th or the Halloween movies. Because, I mean, as scary as those were, you could always be like, I could maybe outrun them, or, maybe when they're going after somebody else, I'll get the hell out of there and I'll never come back. And that'll be the end of it. But then, like you said, with Freddy Krueger, it's like, dude, I gotta sleep. Like, this is nuts.
Well, and I think when I first saw Friday the 13th, because if you go back and see the early ones, a lot of it's kind of like the little TNA, and it's
Yes,
great. But
definitely.
as a kid, I'd be like, who cares about that girl? Just run,
Yeah.
run. And now as an older guy, I'm like, oh, I
Okay.
might stick around for that for a minute,
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, oh, hey, dude, it's not worth it.
yeah.
So it resonates differently with me.
Yes. Oh, for sure. You're like, the titties are not worth it, everybody. Get the
Yeah.
hell out of there.
But I am drawn in. And as
Yeah,
a
but
kid, I think
yeah.
I would have been more like, hey, come on, man.
What the
He's around the corner.
yeah. This guy's killing everybody. Oh man. So that's amazing.
I'm friends with the Duplass brothers, and I know
Okay.
Mark Duplass, and I
Oh,
really
yes.
enjoyed the Creep tapes,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed Creep. I really like that, and I talked to Patrick Bryce recently, and I was saying how much I loved just the way it is shot, the ingenuity, the whole
Yeah.
handheld. Like I just as a filmmaker, I just love that. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how do I do that? Like,
Dude.
how do I make that? Because that's much more interesting to me as an independent filmmaker just holing up in a cabin for like, 2 weeks or 3 weeks and just making a film happen. Like it
Yeah.
feels like camp. Like we're not leaving here until we get this.
Until it's done. It's
Yeah.
very like guerrilla style, just like we're doing this movie. We have 2 weeks, that's it.
I
Yeah,
love it. I love
yeah.
that.
I watched those for the first time last year. I'd heard they were really good and everything. It was one of those. So I just watched them both like back to back. They're both great. Like I love the simplicity of both of them. Really, where it's like you're in this like one location pretty much, and this guy's just being super fucking unsettling the whole time. And it's just like, okay, what's gonna happen here?
Yeah.
And there's so many red flags in those movies. Yeah, that was one where I was like, dude, you're just telling the guy like, get out. Like the first time this guy acts weird, like one time, I think I would be like, oh yeah, shit, I left my thing in the car, and that peel it out of there, go home
Yeah.
with my head still on and all
Oh
that.
yeah, for
So
sure. Well, that's part of what we're watching, right? We're watching like, come on, man. And then these pleas, like, I'm sorry. Hey, don't,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, oh my God, like a massive manipulator, and that was I knew Mark in college, and he actually did my
Oh,
reel when
okay.
I moved out here, and he was RTF, which is radio, television, film, and
Okay.
and so he was on a different track. And honestly, if I could do it again, and for anybody out there, I love my degree, I love getting an acting degree, but I wish a lot of people act out
Yeah.
here. A lot of people act, and it's like, and you don't need a degree to do it, right? It was good for me because I didn't have training in high school. I was an athlete. It was like, and so I was really learning the
Hmm.
craft in college, because
Yeah.
I was doing something different in high school. But Mark and some and others that do radio, television, film, when you're learning, because you're going to act in your own stuff anyway. So you're
Yeah.
kind of learning that. You get to watch it on film. There's going to be some osmosis. So there's more osmosis doing a degree like that as an actor that you're going to get than I had osmosis doing camera stuff, and
Yeah.
figuring out angles and return,
Oh yeah.
so I just didn't, it was very concentrated. And for
Hmm.
kind of a more hodgepodge, well-rounded thing, radio, television, film to me just seems like, oh, that's. I wonder if that, we all live life and think, I wonder if I had chosen that would be
Sure.
different. But just because I think it might, there's area they don't teach you that in most acting schools. Is they don't
Mhm.
teach you. They teach you stage, they teach you how to do the classics, they teach you how to do Ibsen and Shakespeare and all this sort of stuff. But I mean, I don't run into Ibsen a lot. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm doing 99 seat theater out here with Ibsen.
Yeah.
Like or Chekhov and they're great.
Yeah.
But radio, television, film, it's going to give you more practical tools.
Right. I see
Some
what
film
like
program.
work on
Yeah,
your own projects and
yeah,
then add the other pieces as you go along. I mean,
yeah. Because that's what it is. That's what
yeah.
you're going to build your own stuff. There's no one out here that's like I floated around. I've been having a career for over 2 decades, and
Yeah.
I'm I'm still hinging upon people booking me, right? And there's
Yeah.
things that I do that I try to create on my own, and no one can really take that away.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can always be not booked, and
Hmm.
there's plenty of rooms I go into, and honestly, they could any of us could do this. It's just
Hmm.
about what they want. Like I know all these guys are friends of mine. Any of us could do this commercial spot, but
Right.
it's what these 5 people want for this spot.
Just a
They want
matter of
a guy like this with brown hair. Does the other guy have blonde hair? And they have to have a guy with a darker hair.
yeah.
So it's a way of harnessing a little more power and
Hmm.
having a little bit more control over kind of the outcomes is to
Hmm.
build your own stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's really great. And with that being said, I hope that you make the clown horror movie. I really like if you do, you got to let me know because I'll be all up in that. I'll definitely review it, do a show on it. I would be so
I,
down for that.
I appreciate that. I would.
Yeah,
It's a little. Somebody. I'd mentioned it to somebody and told me, like, "Oh, it sounds like blah blah blah, like a different movie." It's like, "Oh, so I gotta make sure I'm not skewed too close
sure.
to that." They said that.
That's everything though. I mean, like any
Yeah,
movie, like I feel like it's kind of a cop out, and like I find myself doing it too. But there's times when I watch a movie, and I'm like, oh shit, they just watched this movie and now they made this movie. But it's like, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. It shouldn't be that big a deal unless it's like I just recently heard something yesterday about that movie that's coming out Together. I think it's like kind of a horror movie. It's like a body horror movie.
Together? Is
I
that
think that's
okay?
what it's called. But I heard that they are being sued because and it sounds a little more legit because there's like an indie film that came out a few years before. I can't remember what that one's called, but they asked the lead actors in Together because they're like a real life couple to be in their indie movie. And they're like, we want your chemistry as a real couple, but they turned it down. And then a couple years later they made this movie together. And from what I've heard, there's like some literal like identical points where it's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that would
But
not surprise me. Yeah, that
yeah,
would not
yeah.
surprise
It's one of those things though where it's like even that it's like a lawsuit, it could fall through. It could be nothing. Like I haven't seen either movie, so I don't know. The way they were describing it, there was one thing where they were like, it was a really specific scene where they in the movie on pulling out like a Girls record and playing like a specific song in both movies, and that's like how it wraps up. And I was kind of like, oh shit, that is pretty similar.
That seems
But
close. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like with that though, you have a lot of wiggle room, like because everybody, I feel like there's been like three movies I can think of that came out this year where it's like people have been like, oh, that's just like this movie. You know what I mean?
well, and there is that. It's like the game of, there's this classic theater game of telephone. I don't know if you ever played it, but
Oh
like
yeah.
start in a circle and then the thing, you could literally tell me something and you're like, here's the story,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Like, and like, okay. And then wait, what happened? And then if you go offline, I'm like, what was the second part of that?
Yeah. It's like
Ah,
just ad lib it, like
yeah,
who,
that, I don't know. We'll just put something else there.
yeah, it'll work itself out usually. Another point that I wanted to be sure to cover, and this is kind of just like a fun one, whatever you think, but I am curious, what are three of your favorite clowns? Like if you had to do like a top three, doesn't I guess have to be like,
No, 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 man,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Three of my favorite clowns.
Mhm.
I mean, I love Groucho Marx.
Yeah,
I love Groucho.
that's a
He
classic.
has He's there's something about him that I just love his status. Like most clowns can fluctuate status wise a
Mhm.
lot, and they status for anyone means that you're better, you're kind of, and then you're just dumb as dirt, and then there's a lot of in between.
Yeah.
When there's typically when there's a couple clown types, and one is like an Auguste clown, one's a white face clown,
Mhm.
and then one is a tramp clown. I guess there's four types now, and one's kind of a specialized clown. Cirque du Soleil does them a lot. Like, oh, that guy's a sports guy or whatever else, or a
Mhm.
cowboy clown, or that could be kind of a thing. Like their outfit predicates who
Yeah.
they are a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, but white face clown tends to be higher status. A goose maybe kind of plays the middle, and tramp would be kind of like lower.
Okay.
Or but a goose could be lower too, and they can all kind of move around a little bit. But
Mhm.
I ideally the white face with the sort of the Pierrot and it had a big ruffle around his, that would be kind of like the high status, the highfalutin clown back in the day. So I Groucho does a good job kind of running through the gamut.
Okay.
He's just very clever. And then Bill Irwin, I would say, is he did a movie or a show called Regard to Flight that we used to like bootleg in college and
Okay.
pass it around because it was so good. He won. It was around the time he won the MacArthur grant, and
Okay.
then that helped finance the show, and that kind of put him on the map. And he's done everything. He's also a Tony Award-winning actor.
Oh
I
wow.
think the guy is just. I think the guy is just fabulous. And then I'd say my third one is probably who's the who am I? Oh God, what am I skipping? Who's the clown in The Simpsons?
Oh, Krusty.
Krusty. I think
Krusty, yeah,
Krusty's
dude, he's one of the
third.
best for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
was
think
thinking
Krusty's.
about that. I was like, does he count? I was thinking of all the, just like when I was getting ready for all this, I was thinking about clowns like all night, But
Oh, Krusty. Yeah, Krusty's great. I mean,
yeah, I was like, does Krusty count? And if you say it counts, I believe it. You know way more
oh
than
yeah,
I.
Krusty counts.
Yeah, okay,
And
great.
here's what's interesting about Krusty,
Mhm.
because when Krusty was created, and this just shows you it kind of, I just want to use this as an illustration for a pendulum to swing.
Mhm.
When Krusty was created, what, 30 years ago or close to it, I mean, he's part of the origin of a lot of the Simpson characters. He was considered a little bit on the edge
Yeah,
of like he smokes, like okay, he didn't murder kids,
yeah, yeah, right.
but he did. he's not always showing his best side, and he's definitely not always catering to him, whatever. Now, I would say Krusty. This to me tells a little like how much we've swung that way. Is considered kind of one of the good ones. Like he's relatable. Now we have more Krusty that we've absorbed and we've witnessed and all that stuff. We know his family, and so we've felt closer to this cartoon character. But and I think he kind of falls on like the good side.
I
Even
would,
though he's a little
yeah,
bit over his job.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think at the time you would consider him like a little like, I don't
kind
know,
of a degenerate a little bit,
yeah, a
right?
little
Yeah, kind
degenerate,
of
but
like, is he an alcoholic or like what's his deal? But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
so many other worse clowns now
Yeah.
that we're like,
I,
I think he's pretty good actually.
I mean,
I think
I was trying to think about that too, because I was like, the only bad clown I can think of, maybe even before that, is like the Joker. Like,
yeah,
like, did people look
I would
down on
say
the
he's bad,
Joker?
but Joker. I mean, yeah, I would say he's bad, but he was like he had whatever, like this the poison or the cyanide or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, that's
He's
right.
got obviously some trauma.
Yeah,
He's got
yeah,
some
that's true.
trauma,
He's
you
not
know.
just like some guy. Yeah, yeah.
No, he's got
He's
trauma.
been
I mean,
through
he's
some
got whatever
shit.
trauma happened, and then the physical trauma,
Yeah.
whatever childhood trauma he had, the physical trauma. There's John Wayne Gacy that comes
Oh,
up.
yeah, yeah.
People
That's
ask me about that, and I always say, like, listen, I don't know what kind of clown John Wayne Gacy was. He was a prolific murderer,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know anything about his clown. And I would say, then there's Pennywise and the Terrifiers, and this that
yeah,
kind of start kind of creeping up, and I think that's what's taken a lot of the market share right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's where we are. And again, I'm not trying to say those shouldn't be around. I'm trying. I've always equated this like you don't play golf. For any golfers out there, you don't play golf with just your putter.
Right.
You would never make it from the greens. You
Yeah.
need other clubs to get you to the green. You
Mm.
need your wood. You need your irons in the fairway. Clowns are the same. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
can't just if you're just looking into a clown to murder people, then like that says a lot about you.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That's that's
It's
there's
kind of
other niche.
scary.
It's very niche, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's very, So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remind people that there's others. There's others out here, and people that
Oh,
love horror
yeah.
clowns typically love clowns.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've grown to have like a great appreciation for clowns. Like I have watched, I don't remember what it was. It was a long time ago. I think it was the first time that it hit me that like clowns weren't always scary. I remember watching like a documentary just on like cable TV when I was younger about that like transformation of like clowns used to be like really widely accepted and loved, and everybody, like, no one was scared of them clowns ever, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like after a certain point, there was more of the norm to be like freaked by them and like and stuff like that. And yeah, so I was really curious, like with this documentary, if that was going to be a focus on it, or like, obviously it's part of it, it sounds like. So I
Yeah,
think
I think it starts off as a primer. So for a lot of people, I think you have to humanize the clown and
mhm,
show kind of what the clowns go through and how difficult it is to even be a clown.
yeah,
And then we go through, towards, we about midway. I mean, we present the situation, the obstacles the clown faces, but then you kind of dive more into the obstacles. And I will say, and I got to wrap up the next 5 minutes. I will
sure,
say
for
that
sure.
I think it's like about yeah, something at 11:30.
Oh,
Um
no problem.
I think a clown or clowns have always been a sign of the times. When
Yeah.
you in the early 20s, you had this sort of basically the creation of the tramp clown. Now, the tramp clown had ill-fitting clothes, had stubble on his face,
Mhm.
was good-hearted, but just kind of a little bit down. And that was Emmett Kelly that created that, who was a trapeze artist who was
Okay.
injured. And he used to paint these things called Weary Willie. And he's the one that really popularized that sort of hobo clown look.
Okay.
And it was during the Great Depression. Like
Oh,
this was
wow.
not an uncommon sight to see these people like this that looked a
Yeah.
little down in the dumps, ill-fitting clothes, a safety pin, some like it was hard times.
Yeah,
And that was
yeah.
relatable. They had somebody that had their uncle that looked like that or whatever,
Wow, wow.
And then you had the clowns in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. You
Mhm.
know, the Ronald, well, really the 60s is when Ronald came around. But
Mhm.
it's because the
Oh
reason they
man.
put Ronald as a clown is because clowns were very popular.
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
lots of
It
clowns.
makes
The
sense.
circus for a lot of these people, the circus was the only gigantic attraction coming into some of these small towns.
Mhm.
So, and they saw clowns front and center. So everybody wanted their clowns. They
Yeah.
had like even in California, in LA, they had like a clown alley, like in the 40s and 50s. You'd go down and you see a bunch of clowns, you know.
Yeah.
But still in California, I don't know about Illinois, but in California, you'll see clowns, you'll see people juggling out the streets and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
You'll see clowns out. I mean, you'll see it.
Mhm.
But then in the 80s, the 70s and the 80s, things really started to, the corporations really
Mhm.
started to take these mascots or these people and
Yeah.
use them for their business. And that was the Ronald. Bozo did it for news
Yeah.
stations and stuff. And that was a little bit pre-Ronald, but then that stuff started happening. And then you see kind of a turn against corporation, turn against capitalism, and clowns became subjects of like they became the sort of the nemesis,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
That's it happens and Stephen King and Ezra, even in Poltergeist, there's a scary clown in that,
Yes,
you know?
that's a very scary clown.
And so and then this stuff started happening, and now not only are clowns out to like they're crazy
Yeah.
maniacal, want to rip your body
Crazier than
apart sort of
ever.
thing,
Yeah,
you
not
know.
just supernatural, which I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
supernatural, the new it's supernatural, like crazy,
Yeah.
like
Psycho
it's like a
killer characters.
if a clown could be a black hole, what would that look like?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
It's like
You know?
fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you said you had to wrap up. I just have one
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
question, and this will be it. And it's do with it what you will. Um, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on the insane clown posse and the gathering of the Juggalos? That's my
But you know,
last.
I've never been to an insane clown posse. I know these juggalos stick together, you know,
They're
and
tight.
they're tight. And I have nothing. We talked about trying to get an interview with the juggalos. It just feels like its own documentary.
Yeah, that's it's probably too much. I mean, that's like a
It,
whole nother society almost,
it's
really.
a society, right? But I mean, what we're talking about isn't vastly different. It's a lot like what Kiss did. You
Yeah,
know, it's a lot like we
100%.
have for painted faces. And I will say, I am all for painted faces
Yes,
in rock and roll. You
dude.
know,
Yes,
I'm
100%.
I'm for it.
I love
So
a gimmick. One of my favorite bands is the Misfits. I feel like they're just like
yeah.
the Kiss, the Insane Clown. Any band, Slipknot, like that has a cool gimmick. It's just like you're doing the right thing, because
Oh, dude.
I mean, I know too much about Insane Clown Posse, and I really don't listen to them, but I know a lot about them for just because of the the pop culture effect of it, and it's
Oh
just
yeah,
always there.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
and
I'm I, I'm a tip of the hat to them. And I'll give you one parting thought, Adrian. It's been so
yeah.
nice to talk to you.
Oh
In the
yeah,
documentary, we have a wonderful group, and it's one of my favorite groups up here, and it's called Mac Sabbath.
dude.
And Mac Sabbath, Google them,
I
viewers out there, Google them, listeners, Mac Sabbath. And I talked to the Mac Sabbath band manager,
yes,
Mike Odd, who's wonderful, and he's
yeah.
very odd. And he talks to it's just if you like the Juggalos, if you like Kiss, if you like, listen to Mac
Dude,
Sabbath.
I have a Max Sabbath shirt here. I saw them in Peoria last year. One of my
All
buddies,
right.
yeah, one of my buddies owns a record store, and he just texted me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey man, I'm going to a Max Sabbath concert today. Can you go?" And I kind of have an odd schedule, so I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm down to go. Like, as long as everybody's cool at home, I'm going." So we went. We talked to I think the manager, I think we were talking to, maybe, I don't know if we were talking to the band members or not. They were kind of undercover, So,
Yeah,
but we were
Ronald
talking to,
Osborne. Yeah.
yes, yes, dude, it was an amazing show. I had a great time. All the stuff, the props on stage and stuff, the flipping burgers, they have the Moon Man come out. I mean, dude, it's a great time. So
It's a show. It's a show.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love a show like that, like anything where it's just like they're going above and beyond to make this work, and it's
Oh, dude,
incredible.
great. I totally agree. I'm so
Well,
glad you're a fan. I'm so glad you're a fan. Well, I'll send you, when it comes out, I'll keep you posted.
yeah,
And
please let me know.
thanks for sitting down and
Hey,
talking. I really appreciate that.
oh, thank you so much, Guilford. I appreciate your time. Everybody, be on the lookout for American Clown. Thanks
Yeah.
again.
Okay. Thanks, man. I'll see you later, Adrian.
All right, see you. Have a good day.
And you can also Instagram AmericanClownMovie.com and it'll
Yes,
give you all the information. And as we kind of move along, when it'll be sent out and all that sort of
for
stuff.
sure. Yeah, I forgot to mention plug anything you want to plug. But I guess that
Okay.
probably covers it. I'll be sure to share the link in the description of the video and all that too. So
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it, bud.
have
Later.
a good one. See you, man.